this opportunity to spend a few minutes with you and share with you some ideas and concepts which, if you use them, could immediately, profoundly, and permanently change your business. Now, before we get started, here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Grab your cell phone if you have it handy, because in a little while, I'm going to be putting up a QR code with a very valuable gift, and you're going to want to be able to grab that. So get your cell phone handy, and in a few minutes, I'm going to flash that QR code. If you don't have a cell phone that'll snap the QR code, that's okay. I'll also give you the URL as well where you can grab the gift. So let's get started. I want to take you back to November or early December 2010. And I'm walking through the halls of this event venue because I was holding an event there and I was just checking out the venue. And I noticed that the whole place was decorated for Christmas. But not only was it decorated for Christmas, it was just profoundly unique. It was so different than everybody else. I mean, every other place was decorated for Christmas. It was close to Christmas time. But there was just something sort of different about this place as I looked around. And so when I met the manager, I asked her, I said, hey, did you do this? Did you put up all these Christmas presents or Christmas decorations like this? And she said no. And she gave me the name of the person who did it. And then she said this. She said, she gave me the name. And then she said, she's the very best. She's really expensive, if you can even get her. And I thought, that's what I want people saying about me. I want people saying that about Steve Lowell. That's what I want them to think when they hear the name Steve Lowell. I wanted them to say, oh yeah, he's the very best. He's really expensive, if you can even get him. But then I thought, how do people see me now? When they think about my name, my market, the people in my market who know me, what do they think about? And I started thinking about how I was showing up in my market. And here's what I found. Steve Lowell, he's pretty good at what he does. And he's really inexpensive and he's everywhere. And here's why those things would happen, is because I had delivered or created a good reputation for myself because of my abilities as a speaker coach. But then I was so insecure about my own value, and I didn't really know how to extend my value for money at the time. And so I kept lowering my fees. I kept lowering my fees and giving discounts and giving bonuses, and just so people would hire me, because I really needed them to hire me at the time. And then to, in order to get my name out there, I was going to all the networking groups. I was on every call. I was at every meeting. I was in every association. I was everywhere. And so the impression that people had of me, those who were in my market, those who knew who I was, say, yeah, Steve's really good at what he does. He's really inexpensive and he's really easy to find. Go to any meeting, he's there. And it was the exact opposite of what I wanted. I wanted people to say, he's the very best. He's really expensive, if you can even get them. Now, that was 2010. That was in early December-ish in 2010. And now, let me tell you what the status of things are now. Now I have a global business. I train entrepreneurs, speakers, coaches, trainers, consultants all over the world with my wife, Jane. We have a global 7-figure business. My fees are now 50 times what they were in 2010. And now I am the incoming president of the Global Speakers Federation. I'm the past national president of the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers. I'm an award-winning speaker, a #1 best-selling author. Now, I don't tell you all of that to impress you, but I tell you that to impress upon you what can happen when you put into play certain strategies that I'm going to share with you today. 10 years ago, I was pretty good at what I did. I was really inexpensive and really easy to find. Now, people in my circles, when they know who I am and who my wife Jane is, when they think about us as a team, this is what they think. They're the very best at what they do. They're really expensive, if you can even get them. And this is what I want for you. So I want to share with you a concept called the perceived stature of authority. And here's what that means. When your audience or your market, and I'm not talking about your clients, not the ones who already love you, although include those, but I'm more interested in the people in your market who know who you are and they know what you do, and they have an opinion about you. So I want you to think about this. What is their opinion about you? When those people think about you, what do they think? And so there's this thing called the perceived stature of authority. Now, the perceived stature of authority is this. It's where you land in the mind of your market as an authority in your field as compared to your competitors. So let me repeat that and then I'll explain it. Your perceived stature of authority is where you land in the mind of your market as an authority in your field as compared to your competitors. So that means this: when your market thinks about you, they're going to think about you in terms of what level of authority do you have in your market? How knowledgeable are you? How good are you? Are you somebody that is possibly a candidate to help them solve their problem? And what I found over the years is that there are 4 different levels of your stature of authority. And let me explain. Let me just grab my flip chart. I'm going to share with you a tool that I developed around the time of the Christmas story, somewhere shortly after 2010. Now, this tool could be the most important tool in your business today. This tool measures what I call your perceived stature of authority. It measures the state of your reputation based on how your market perceives you as an authority figure. And so I call it the Repumeter. Now, the Repumeter has 4 states on it, 4 levels. And the first level is what I call obscurity. Now, obscurity means that nobody knows who you are and nobody really knows what you do. Your marketplace out there doesn't really know that you exist. They might know of you, but they don't really know what you do, and they don't really know where you sit in terms of an authority in your field. So when you are operating at the level of obscurity, your perceived stature of authority is very low. Now, you know you're at obscurity when these things are happening, when the phone isn't ringing, that proverbial phone isn't ringing. You're not getting a lot of referrals. You find that everything you do to get business is a bit of a struggle. And your entire motivation is really about being seen, and it's about getting noticed, and it's about becoming visible. You know you're in obscurity when everything about you is like this. It's like, I need to get another website. I need to post more. I need to do more stuff on LinkedIn. I need to write another book, host another webinar, put on another seminar. And it's all designed specifically to bring more people into you, to let them know that you exist. Now, here's the thing. When you operate at the level of obscurity, as I mentioned, your perceived stature of authority is very low, which means when your market thinks about you, if they think about you at all, they're not really seeing you as an authority in your field. And so if you are to monetize, get sales, get people to hire you, it usually happens by accident. And so monetizing can be very difficult because when you operate at the level of obscurity, you can't really duplicate it deliberately. And it happens, kind of by accident. And sometimes you're not really sure why they hired you. You just happened to get lucky and they hired you. That's obscurity. Your perceived stature of authority is very low. Monetization happens by accident. It's difficult. But then the next level on your Repumeter is up here, and I call that competitive. Now, competitive means you're in the game. It means that your market has a pretty good idea of who you are and what you do, but there's nothing that really separates you from everybody else who does what you do. To them, you kind of look the same as everybody else who does what you do. Now, when you're at the state of competitive, your perceived stature of authority is still very low. And here's why. Because when you're at the level of competitive, these are the things that happen. People are coming to you to talk to you about maybe hiring you because maybe they've been referred or they've met you somewhere. And what you do is you start negotiating on price. You start reducing your fees, throwing in bonuses, and you do that not because it's goodwill. You do that in order to get the business before she gets the business or before he gets the business. It's a competitive state, which means everything about you is about trying to prove yourself, and you're always defending why you instead of the competition. You know you're in the state of competitive when people are coming to you and they're saying, give me your best price. How do you compare to so-and-so? This other organization or this other person made me this offer. Can you beat this offer? And monetization at that level becomes a question of what I call advantage, which means when people hire you, it's typically because you have offered a better deal, you've given them a better price, you've just done a better job at selling it, and you have been successful at positioning yourself above your competition that they are also considering. Now, the thing about competitive is that it's a very difficult place to stay in because your perceived stature of authority is low, and the reason it's low is because it's kind of the same as everybody else's in the mind of your market. So when your market thinks about you, what they're thinking is, okay, there's that one, and there's this one, and there's that one. And they all look sort of the same to me. Nobody's really standing out. So I'm going to talk to all of them and see who has the best deal, see who feels the most qualified, all of those things that your prospects use to make decisions. And now you're in a position where you have to compare everything you do to everything everybody else does. That's competitive. Now, the next stage on the Repumeter is the stage that I call branded. Now, branded means this. Branded is a very, very important point on the Repumeter. Branded means that generally your market knows who you are and they know what you do. And they've heard something about you. They've heard something from somebody else. They've read something. Maybe they've seen a video, read one of your books, been in one of your seminars, been at an event where you were speaking, and they have formed a predetermined expectation about you based on that experience. And so here's what happens. Your perceived stature of authority is slightly elevated because you've got their attention. Something has happened in your market's world or in your prospect's world that made them go, I should check on that one. So they do. And they've formed this preconception about you. And then what they'll do is this. They'll come and check you out. They'll come and check you out. And here's the toughest part about what I'm about to explain is you won't even know what's happening. But they're going to come and check you out. And what they're doing is they're evaluating whether or not the reality of the experience with you matches the predetermined expectation. And so it's kind of like this. They've heard about you or they've seen something online. So they've seen something online, you've raised their eyebrows a little bit. So they go, okay, let me look at something else. So they go and check out, your Facebook profile, LinkedIn profile, maybe your website. They're going to start looking at more things that you posted, and they're going to start evaluating the stuff that you have put out there in the world. And then they're going to form that predetermined expectation. Maybe I should talk to this person. Maybe I should engage with this person. And they will come to you with that predetermined expectation, and they're checking you out. And so if the reality of the experience with you, if it matches or exceeds that predetermined expectation, then you're good. Then what happens is your perceived stature of authority is confirmed, and then you start moving forward to the next spot, which I'll reveal in a moment. But here's the dangerous thing. Because you won't even know what's happening, and in fact, your prospect isn't consciously aware that they're doing this, but this is what happens. So because you're not aware of it, you won't know that it's happening. You will not be given the opportunity to be forewarned. And so I'm kind of forewarning you now. So what'll happen is if your prospect comes to you and they say, I've seen the website, I've seen the LinkedIn profile, I've read and heard the testimonials, I've been referred, I've spoken to some people, everything looks good. I've got this predetermined expectation. I'm going to check him or her out. Then they come and check you out. If the reality of their experience with you does not match their predetermined expectation, then this is what happens. In their mind, you drop like a stone, and your perceived stature of authority becomes wiped out, and you become just another one of them. And that's where you'll stay. And I have seen this happen time and time and time again, and I don't want it to happen to you. But now that you know about this, I'm going to give you some tools so that it doesn't happen to you anymore. Because here's where you want to be. On the Repumeter, you want to be at this spot over here that I call V1. This is where you emerge as the unmistakable authority in your field. This is where you become the only logical choice. This is where you become the very best. You're really expensive if they can even get you. And the reason that happens is because when you're at a level of V1, you keep raising your fees. People keep paying them. You get to pick and choose with whom you work. Clients and prospects come to you and you decide which ones you can help the most and which ones you would enjoy working with the most. And when you're at the level of V1, because your perceived stature of authority is so high that it's almost like autopilot. People come to you more than you going out there pursuing them. Now, does it mean you stop marketing? No. And does it mean you stop selling? No, you still do those things, of course, because every business needs what I call institutional marketing. It's about keeping the momentum up there. I mean, how long has Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola been around? And they still spend millions of dollars a year marketing. They do it to sustain their presence. And so when you're at a level of V1, that's the type of marketing that you're pursuing. It's about sustaining the presence, maybe even elevating the presence, but it's not about creating the presence. So when you're on this side of branded, you are stuck in a competitive world in which you are trying to become visible and or create your presence. But when you find your way over to V1, where you become the only logical choice, now it's about sustaining the presence. It's not about creating the presence. So the question then is, how do you get over there? How do you elevate your perceived stature of authority beyond the obscurity stage, through the competitive stage, get past that hump over at the branded stage, and all the way over to V1? Here's why you want to do that. Because remember a while ago, I mentioned that when you're operating at the obscurity stage, monetization happens by accident, which means when people hire you, when they pay you, they may have a very good reason for doing that, but you can't necessarily duplicate it on purpose. It kind of happens all by itself from time to time, and you can't get real momentum because you don't know how to recreate it deliberately, tactically, and long-term. That's what happens here. Then when you get to competitive, what I'd mentioned was that people are hiring you or paying you because you have given them some sort of advantage. And that's what I call monetizing by advantage, which means you monetize because for whatever reason in any given conversation, you are able to prove why you are a better candidate than one of your competitors. And it's interesting because so many people, especially in the entrepreneurial space, they stay at that spot forever and ever and ever. Okay? But at branded, remember this, Branded now is where your market and your prospects are coming to you with a preconceived expectation. And what they're looking for is the reality of the experience matching or exceeding those expectations. So at branded, your perceived stature of authority, it's just starting to emerge, it's emerging, and you monetize by what I call audit. By audit. Why? Because your market is coming to you and evaluating the experience, you are quite literally under audit. And if you pass the audit, then you'll monetize. If you don't pass the audit, you won't monetize. It's kind of like this, when you set up an email account or something, it needs to be validated. There's always validation, and your system will go out and they won't send your emails until your email has been authenticated. Well, it's kind of the same here. Your clients are not, your prospects are not going to buy you, or they're not going to hire you or pay you until you've been authenticated. And authenticated means that the reality of the experience with you matches or exceeds the expectation. That's authenticated. So monetization happens by audit. And then when you're here at V1, because you have emerged as the unmistakable authority in your field, your perceived stature of authority is very high. And so monetization happens by design, which means you have created it that way. Your business is an ongoing engine, and it's running like an engine, and you're doing it by design. So the question then is, what happens in between here? How do we get there? So there's only two ways that my wife Jane and I, after looking at the business through this lens for the last 5 or 6 years, there's only two ways where we've ever seen anybody reach this state of V1. And one way is by celebrity. So celebrity status, if you're a sports star, if you're a literary star, if you're Tony Robbins or Jack Canfield, or one of the celebrity type speakers or trainers or entrepreneurs, then yeah, you can become the state of V1. But most of us do not experience the celebrity status. Some of us do, for sure. Most of us don't. And if you're not a celebrity, then there's still a way for you to find your way over here to V1. And it's by a tool that I call your Expert Insights. Expert Insights is this. Expert Insights is a body of wisdom or knowledge that comes from within you that only you can claim ownership of. Let me repeat that, then I'll explain what it means. Expert Insights is a body of wisdom or knowledge that comes from within you that only you can claim ownership of. So here's what that means. It means that through your experience in your business, through your wisdom, your creativity, all on the study and all the things that you've done, you have some knowledge inside of you that nobody else in the whole world has. Now, I know you might be thinking, well, that I don't, there's a lot of people in my space who know what I know. I'm not talking about the stuff you've been taught. I'm talking about your unique creative spin on what's already there. And what happens is this: when you're able to curate or dig out that unique creative spin on what's already there, here's what it allows you to do. It allows you to tell your client's story, or your market's or your prospect's story, from a perspective they have never ever heard before. And when you can do that, then it raises their eyebrows, and that's when you start to get attention. So let's talk for a moment about Expert Insights. What exactly is Expert Insights? Expert Insights accomplishes 3 things. In fact, it accomplishes 4 things, but it can't accomplish the 4th until it accomplishes the first 3, okay? So here are the 3 critical outcomes of Expert Insights. Number 1 is you need to bring your market's awareness to a problem they never even knew they had. So I'm not talking about any problem. I'm not talking about the obvious problems. I'm not talking about the problems that they see every day. Those are symptoms of a much bigger problem. And that problem is what you need to define. So you need to bring a story to your audience or to your market that represents their condition from a perspective they have never seen before, so that they go, oh, I'm in the wrong spot, or I'm doing the wrong thing. And they want to go, that's me. He or she, that's it. She nailed it. That's me. And so you're bringing their awareness to a problem they never even knew existed. Now, once you do that, here's the next piece. The next piece is you bring them present to the cause of having the problem. Why are they there? And usually the cause of the problem is something they're doing wrong or something they're not doing at all. And you want to find out what that is. What is it they're doing that is keeping them in the problem? Or what is it that they're not doing that they ought to be doing that is keeping them in the problem? And so once you present to them the problem they never knew existed, help them understand that what they are doing or what they are not doing is the cause. Now, those are the first two outcomes of expert insights. And then the third outcome is this. The third outcome is about positioning you as the solution. Position you as the only logical choice. Now, that's what I do. This is what I do. I help entrepreneurs, coaches, speakers, trainers, consultants, authors of all different types. I help them determine what is the current state of their reputation based on their perceived stature of authority. How are they going to get over this branded line? By creating and crafting their own expert insights so that they can reach a state of the one in their field. And then the fourth thing that happens is, I'm going to use an E here, is you emerge as the unmistakable authority in your field. Now, before I go a whole lot further, I don't want to miss this opportunity. I want to give you a gift. Get those cell phones out, get them handy. And what I want to do for you is I want to give you as my gift a copy of my #1 international best-selling book, Deep Thought Strategy. Here's why. This entire process is called Deep Thought Strategy. The process of figuring out what your expert insights are. How do you create a problem they never knew they had? How do you help them understand that they themselves are the cause of the problem? How do you then position yourself as the only logical choice and then emerge as the one, the unmistakable authority? That process is called Deep Thought Strategy. That's what I do. So I'm going to put up a screen right now. I'm going to put up a slide with a QR code. And this is my gift to you. There's no catch here. Just take your phone, snap the QR code, and fill out the very short form, and I will send you a complimentary PDF copy of my book as my gift to you. If you don't have your phone, I'll also put the URL up on the screen here so that you can grab that book. Here's the QR code. So there's the QR code right there in the middle. Grab your phone, take a photo of that QR code, fill in the little form, and get your book. And it's my gift to you. It'll come to you via email. It's a PDF. You'll get it within minutes. And this book is going to share with you the principles of the Deep Thought Strategy and how you create your own set of expert insights. Now, once you've been able to do that, then what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to present yourself from a different perspective to your entire audience, to your entire market, to your entire circle of influence. And the net result is it changes the way they see you. It changes your perceived stature of authority. Now I'm going to keep the QR code up there for another 10 seconds or so, and I'm going to take it down, and then I'll put up the URL where you can go and grab your copy if you don't have your cell phone handy. So let me take the QR code down and then we'll come back. So if you were able to grab your copy of Deep Thought Strategy with the QR code, watch your email because it'll be there any minute now. And if you do not have your phone for a QR code, the URL is on the screen. So use that URL, grab your free copy of my book as my gift to you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, here's what you want to be able to do. You want to make sure that you are honest with yourself when it comes to where you currently exist in the eyes of your market. We want your market to be able to see you as the one. But before that can happen, there are steps that you need to take. And one of those steps is to first be honest with yourself in terms of where you really think they see you. Here's the mistake I see people making. When I ask you this question, if I were to say, do you know where you are on the Repumeter? People's hands will go up, which is good. And then I'll ask this question, are you exactly where you want to be on the Repumeter? And oftentimes hands will go up. And usually, not always, but usually those hands go up because people are not understanding where they are actually sitting in the mind of their market in terms of an authority. So be honest with yourself. I'm not interested in where you think you are. I'm interested in where you think, where they think you are on the Repumeter. So take the time to do this, review the PDF book, start crafting your expert insights, and you'll see a huge change in your business. Now, let's move on to the next step. Let me show you why all this happens. Here's why this happens. You see, in working with speakers and coaches and trainers and entrepreneurs and consultants all over the world, here's what Jane and I have found, that there are patterns out there that repeat themselves over and over again. And here's one of those patterns. What we found is that most entrepreneurs are motivated by one or more of what I call primary motivators. And it looks like this. The first primary motivator is what I call a mess. So a mess is this. A mess is where you have something significant in your life that has set the trajectory of your life or your business. So it could be a big story like an illness or some catastrophic event. It could be a major loss, something big in your life. And I work with a lot of speakers who have big stories. They have illnesses, they have disabilities, they've got catastrophic events in their lives, big stories. And there's an old adage in the speaking business, and you may have heard this before, that your mess is your message. I don't necessarily agree with that statement, but oftentimes that's the case. So this may be you. You may have a big event in your life, a mess, that has kind of set the trajectory of who you have become. Now, I don't have a mess. Maybe you're like me. I don't have a mess. And so if you don't have a mess either, maybe you have this. Because I have this one. I relate more to this second one. I have what I call a moment. I have a moment in time when I realized what my gift was, a moment in time when I realized why I'm here. And you may have that. So maybe there's a moment or a series of moments over time where you became aware of your purpose. It's kind of like where something happens and you go, oh, this is why I'm here. I'm good at this. This is what I want to do. And so you may have that. So maybe you have a mess and maybe you have a moment, but maybe you don't have either. Maybe you have neither a mess nor a moment. And if you don't have a mess or a moment, then you might have one of these. You might have what I call a mission. And a mission is where you have a greater cause that you're dedicated to. You've got a major outcome that you're trying to achieve. There's a legacy you want to leave or a major change that you want to create in this world. And if that's you, then you have a mission. Now, maybe You have all three. You might fall into one of these, you might fall into two, you might fall into all three. Now, my guess is if I were to ask you this question, can you see yourself somewhere there? My guess is that you would nod your head, because most people can. And that's pretty normal. So that's pretty standard. Now, here's the next thing that we do as entrepreneurs, coaches, speakers, trainers, consultants, experts, healers, real estate agents, mortgage brokers, all network marketers, all the different things that we do in the entrepreneurial space. We know that we are primarily motivated by one or more of these three motivators, and then we do this. We take our mess, our moment, and or our mission, and from there, we either create our message or we start our business. Now, not always is the mess, moment, and or mission always directly included in the message. So for example, if you have a mess and it's a major catastrophic event, it's possible that that catastrophic event may be a big part of the reason why you got into the business you're in or why you share the message you share, but that doesn't mean that you talk about it every time. It's just part of the motivating factors. So here's what we do, and we've seen this all over the world, is we take our mess, our moment, and or our mission. From there, we create our message or our business. And then we go to the world and we say, here's what I have. So it's like, I've had this story happen to me. Let me share with you what I've learned from my story. And I'll put it in the form of a message and I'll bring it to the world. I'll write a book about it. I will start a speaking business about it. I'll hold seminars, training programs about it. I'll become certified in different methodologies that help support my passion for helping people with what I've learned from my mess. That may be you. Or maybe you've got the moment like me where you said, this is what I'm good at. And what you decided to do is, I'm going to take what I'm good at. I'm going to take what I love to do. I'm going to take my gift. I'm going to bring it to the world, share with the world what my gift is, and turn it into a business and get paid for doing what I actually love to do, and to get paid for doing what I'm actually good at doing. And so we bring that moment where we had this realization of our power, of our passion, of our gift, and we bring that to the world in the form of a message or a business. Maybe that's you. Maybe you're here with a mission. Maybe you have something that drives your soul. It stirs your purpose, and you have a cause, and there's something in this world that you want to leave in better condition than the way you found it when you got here. So you learn about that cause, you study it, you learn about it, and you immerse yourself into it. And from there, you create a message of hope, a message of change, a message of transformation, a message of strength, a message of something that you bring to the world. And possibly you take that message of hope or transformation or whatever it is for you and turn it into a business. And hopefully you're able to create a living or even prosper doing exactly what you love. And maybe you're in there somewhere, and what we found is that 95 or more % of entrepreneurs are doing these things. And that's the problem. That's the problem. Here's why. Because we do these things. And what we're after is this. We have a goal or an outcome. And maybe that goal or outcome for you is, maybe it's income, maybe it's influence, you want to affect change, maybe it's impact, you want to affect a transformation or create something, have a legacy. Maybe for you it's lifestyle, maybe it's whatever it is. Whatever it is for you, there's a reason you're doing all of these things, because there's a greater goal for you. You're pursuing something. And the problem is that this is where most of us stop. We take our mess, our moment, and our mission, or all three. From that mess, moment, or mission, we create our message and we join it with a business. And then we go out there and we say to the world, look what I got. Here's what I have. Here are the lessons I've learned. These are my 3 pillars, my 4 secrets, my 5 strategies. Here's my very unique process. Here's my unique story. Here's what I've learned from my story. Here's why I'm different because I've been there, done it myself. I've been in this business for 25 years. I have a unique perspective. I have a unique story. I have a unique system. And we bring all of this stuff to the world. And here's our thought process. This is where we make the mistake, is that we think we're unique because of our mess, our moment, or our mission. And we're not. And the reason we're not unique is because this is what everybody does. You see, when Jane and I speak around the world and we share this with audiences, virtual audiences, live audiences, it doesn't matter. What I do is I'll do this piece and I talk about the mess, moment, or mission, and then I talk about the message and the business, and then I ask the audience, so put up your hand if that's you. And guess how many hands go up? All of them, every time. Now, what does that tell you? It tells you that if this is what you're doing exactly the same thing as everybody else. So you think it's differentiating you, but what it's really doing is embedding you into the competitive state. This is what it's doing. It's locking you on the wrong side of Brandon because you're doing what everybody else does. But here's the thing. You're doing what everybody else does, but you're after the goal that those people get. So the only people who deliberately and routinely reach the goal are the people who are in a state of V1, the unmistakable authorities in their field. You need to have a high perceived stature of authority in order to reach that level. So, see this big gap in the middle? Guess what's in the gap? What's in the gap is expert insights. What are expert insights? Expert insights is where you can accomplish 3 primary objectives. 1, you bring your market's awareness to a problem they never even knew they had. Remember this? Number 2 is you help them understand that what they are doing or what they are not doing is the cause of the problem. And number 3 is you position yourself as the solution, the only logical choice. This is what we do. This is what I do. It's what my wife Jane does. We help people create this model of expert insights. We help them do this. We help you to know how you're going to create that problem that your audience never knew they had. We help you to understand how do you bring their awareness to the fact that they themselves are the cause of that problem. And then how do you position yourself right in the middle as the only possible solution? We do that through a process called deep thought strategy. And so I'd already put up the QR code. I'll put it up one more time because if you didn't grab the book, you're going to want to get it now. So and it's my gift. There's no charge for this. You can have the book. It's a PDF download. Go through it. And it talks about all of this stuff. It talks about how you create this. And the reason I want you to have this book as my gift is because you're part of this event. And as part of this event, our way of giving back for the opportunity to be here is to give you something you can take with you and action right away. So I want you to have the book. Give me 1 second. I'm going to put the QR code back up and then we'll come back and take it from there. All right, QR code is back up. Grab your phone, snap the QR code. Now, if you're not sure how to do that, just take your phone, put it on camera. Point your camera at the QR code. Do not take a picture of it. Just point your camera to the QR code. And what you'll see is at the top of your screen, there'll be a little banner that says, hey, there's a link right here. Click on that link and a short form will open up and we're just going to ask your name and email address and we will fire you off your copy of Deep Thought Strategy right away. Now, if you don't have a phone that will read the QR code, that's okay. So as soon as I take this down, I'll put the URL up there where you can go and get it. But I want you to have this book because I want you to understand the difference between being at the condition of V1, where you are the only logical choice, and being stuck on the wrong side of the branded line. All right, I'm going to take the QR code down now, and if you've missed it, I'll put the URL up onto the screen so you can grab it. So, quick review. Here's what we know. We know that what matters in the mind of your marketplace is something called your perceived stature of authority. We know that your perceived stature of authority is where you sit in the mind of your market as an authority in your field as compared to your competitor. We also know that there are 4 different stages to your perceived stature of authority as represented by the Repumeter. We know that obscurity has a very low stature of authority, so monetization happens by chance. We know that a competitive has a very low stature of authority, so monetization happens by advantage, which means you have to prove yourself first. We know at branded, your perceived stature of authority is just starting to emerge. And we know that people come to you with a predetermined expectation based on what they've read or heard. We know that if they do not, if your experience, if the reality of you does not match or exceed that predetermined expectation, we know that your perceived stature of authority drops like a stone and you become just another one of them. In order to achieve the spot called V1, where you become the unmistakable authority in your field, you need to get past this branded point where you are under audit. You need to pass the audit. You need to be authenticated in the mind of your market, the mind of your prospect. And then in order to navigate this wide journey, you need something called expert insights. We know that expert insights is a body of wisdom or knowledge that comes from within you that only you can claim ownership of. And we know it does 3 things. It helps you bring their awareness to a problem they never knew they had, helps them understand that they themselves are the cause of the problem, and it helps them understand that you are the only logical source of the solution. You position yourself, and that's where you emerge as the unmistakable authority in your field. When you can get all of this to happen, that's how you're going to succeed in this entirely new world. Whatever the new reality ends up being, this is how you do it. It's been a real pleasure for me to present to you today. I hope you found this of value. Thank you for inviting